Last night, the NHC designated an area of interest in the main development region, and as of this morning, it now has an increased chance of tropical development. The models have continued to significantly uptrend for tropical development, with now both the European and the GFS showing potentially a major hurricane developing in the Atlantic. How far west will it go? And will it stay out to sea? In today's video, we're going to be answering those questions and going over all the data you need to know about this area of interest. So here is the situation. We have three areas of interest across the Atlantic. One in the subtropical Atlantic near the Iberian Peninsula. Another one dead smack in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that is showing some more convection as of this morning. And our main meat of the video and the main area that we're watching is in the main development region once again. But unlike the previous times, this one has a lot more support for tropical development. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start with the NHC and then go from there. Starting off, we have our three areas of interest that we're going to be watching right here. This is our first one over here in the northeastern Atlantic. We're going to read this one out real quickly and then move on to the next one and then move on to the main event. So this is what we have going on. A strong non-tropical area of low pressure is located over the northeastern Atlantic, several hundred miles west of the coast of Portugal. This system could acquire some subtropical or tropical characteristics later today or on Sunday, while it moves east-southeastward at 10 to 15 miles per hour towards Portugal and northwestern Spain. The opportunity for tropical or subtropical development should end Sunday night when the system encounters unfavorable conditions. For more information, see the high seas forecast issued by Meteo France. 20% chance of formation in the next 48 hours and in the next 7 days. So that's what we have going on in the northeastern Atlantic. This is what we have going on right dead smack in the middle of the Atlantic. Let's go ahead and read this out for you guys. A trough of low pressure located over the central subtropical Atlantic, a few hundred miles east of Bermuda, is producing disorganized shower activity. Development of the system, if any, is expected to be slow to occur while it drifts westward through Sunday and then accelerate northward early next week. 10% chance in the next 48 hours, 20% in the next 7 days. But this is the main event. This is the main meat that we're paying attention to. Now has a 30% chance of development. It was at 20% last night when we were on the Triple P show. Let's go ahead and read this out and then we're going to get into this. A tropical wave is expected to move off the west coast of Africa on Monday. An area of low pressure could form in association with the wave soon after it moves off the coast, and subsequent development will be possible while the system moves westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic through the end of next week. 30% chance of formation in the next 7 days. It's going to be a very interesting one, and the NHC is also highlighting something that they haven't previously. They are sort of expecting the system to come off the coast of Africa, get its act together very quickly, and just develop right off the bat as it's moving off the coast of Africa and getting tapped into the Atlantic. So we're going to want to watch out and see how this will pan out. But we also need to go over the modeling and the conditions. So we're going to start with our Ensemble suite, then go to the operational, because everything has been getting very interesting over the last day or so. To start off, we have the European Ensemble run right here. I was talking about this on the Triple P show last night, how the 12Z run from yesterday had the perfect example of pretty much the perfect combination of both contact and power. What I mean by that is you had a lot of power ensembles that were producing a pretty significant strengthening storm, and you also now have a lot of contact ensembles that are having the system develop overall. I know it's baseball terms, what do you expect? But basically we have a situation where we have a lot of ensembles that are showing up, and we have a lot of ensembles showing a lot of power as well. This isn't just a power signal where we don't have a lot of ensembles, but the ones that are showcasing it have a lot of strength with it. This is a situation where we have a lot of ensembles on the entire suite showing tropical development, and a large percentage of those ensembles are showcasing a lot of power. So I know I've been kind of going through that. I know that was probably a tongue twister for a few people, I know. But we're going to go ahead and go through this run and kind of show you what I'm talking about, because the 0Z has become interesting as well, not just with this, but the operational. To start off with, we have our tropical wave emerging off the coast of Africa in the next 48 to 72 hours. This is by the time we get to Sunday night right here. It's going to be emerging off the coast of Africa throughout the next 24 hours on this time frame. Let's go ahead and pull this up to Monday night. By the time we get to Monday night, this wave is expected to be off the coast of Africa, and already the European is showcasing some potential development going on. What's going to be interesting is kind of the splashdown effect with this and how that's going to pan out, because the wave right now over Africa looks very healthy, but the problem is when it splashes down into the Atlantic, it loses its source of land-based convection, and it has to adapt to the water temperatures and adapt to the water. I will say the waters are plenty warm to produce a ton of convection, and if this system can produce that water convection seamlessly and kind of maintain its convection all the way through the splashdown, we're going to have a situation where this develops very, very quickly. A lot quicker than I think a lot of people would expect. But keep in mind, we need to watch what's going to happen in the next 2 days. But after that, this is what we're going to be potentially seeing. So 96 hours out, this is by Tuesday night right here. Tuesday night, you have a situation where you have a huge, and I repeat, huge signal going on over here just south of the Cabo Verde Islands. The European wants this to get its act together and develop very, very quickly. Going to 5 days out as well. It not just develops quickly, but you have a big power ensemble potential starting to pop up right here. A lot of ensembles, and a lot of them are showcasing some power already just southwest of the islands. A lot of these ensembles are wanting at least tropical storm strength with this system, which is definitely a bit of an interesting scenario that we're watching. And I talked about this last night and in yesterday's video. If it wants to get its act together, it's got to have a shot in the next 72 hours after it emerges off the Atlantic. I think things have changed quite a bit since I put out that video, and I'll talk about that more later, especially when we get to the conditions. But definitely the window is opening up more, and I can even show you what's going on in the next 6 days. And as you can see, it's traveling off the coast of Africa. It's traveling through the central main development region. You have a lot of power potential right here and a lot of ensembles holding this system together. Let's go ahead and go to 8 days out. This system is going to be drifting potentially out to sea over here. If you're tuning in from the Antilles, though, you might want to pay attention to it just in case you see some impacts from this. But look at this, still a lot of ensemble supporting development and a lot of power associated with a lot of this. 972, 966, 995, just to name a few. Let's go ahead and go to 9 days out right here. This system is moving a bit further up to the north, definitely seeing that power suite still ramping up over here. And then as we go ahead and go to 10 days out, definitely seeing a big ramp up in terms of the power numbers. But I do find something kind of interesting, and this is kind of something I want to pay attention to. If it stays weaker, it generally moves further to the south and closer towards land. But those weaker ensembles start bringing a lot more power potential as it moves into the Atlantic Basin, because the main development region has a lot of dry air going on with it. It moves into better conditions in the Atlantic Basin for some pretty significant strengthening. I think no one here is disputing this at this current point, but the systems that remain relatively weak, at least the ensembles that remain relatively weak early on, move into the basin and then really start ramping up in terms of the intensity. So it's definitely a situation we need to watch out for very, very closely. And then going to 288 hours out, rather, this is 12 days out. Those systems that stay further to the south have a lot of power associated with it as it's moving into 29 to 30 degrees Celsius or 84 to 86 degree Fahrenheit water temperature. So the European has definitely been very interesting. It's been very aggressive with this developing wave that we have coming off of Africa in the next couple of days. But not just the European also, but it's a bunch of other models that are showcasing this as well. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and pull up the GFS as too. Here is the GFS. It's a bit more spread out compared to the European, but you're definitely showing a bit of power associated with it as well. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and go back to 5 days to show you this. The GFS is absolutely loving this signal right here. In terms of the long-term track, it is in disagreement. It's kind of all over the place. Some have it impacting the Antilles, some have it going as far west as the Bahamas, some have it going out to sea, but the GFS absolutely loves this signal right here. The GFS has been the more conservative of the two old reliables that I use for this hurricane season, and if the GFS is definitely showing this signal as well, I am absolutely going to be paying attention to this as we go down the road. Now let's go ahead and go to 24 hours out. Yeah, they're still liking this signal right here. It's a bit scattered, I would say. It's a bit more spread out, but the same signal is still there, and it's definitely showcasing power potential regardless. Let's go ahead and go an extra 3 days out. You start seeing a bit of an interesting spread. I will tell you this, if it enters the Caribbean, not too much is going on. Personally, I think the steering currents are going to prevent this from entering the Caribbean, especially if it strengthens early. Now, if it strengthens a little bit later, it takes its time to consolidate and takes advantage of the conditions later on, I think you'll have a scenario where it gets its act together and potentially just starts blowing up in the southwestern Atlantic. That said, that is still very far out. We're going to want to keep an eye on it. But that is the GFS ensembles. Now we're going to show you some of the AI runs because it's been a bit of an interesting spread with some of them, and I want to kind of go over them to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Starting off with, we have the European AI run. The European AI run has definitely been more on the conservative side of things from what I've seen previously, which I do find kind of interesting. This was the 0Z. Let's go ahead and show you the 12Z from yesterday. Definitely a bit more aggressive on the 12Z compared to what we're seeing with the 0Z right here. But the 6Z run came out kind of showing that aggression once again. So it's definitely been a bit more of a back and forth type of situation where the 12Z is definitely more aggressive, the 18Z is definitely more aggressive, the 0Z is like, hold on, we're not 100% sure, and the 6Z is going back to it being aggressive again. I will say in terms of its wind speeds, the European AI is definitely having a hard time with it, but the pressures can give you an idea that this is generally a power signal that I'm paying attention to. But we're going to want to watch the trends and see how things will progress. Let's go ahead now and show the FNV3. Bit of an interesting situation right here with the FNV3. The 0Z pulling this up right here, not showing development initially, but man, oh man, it's wanting the system to develop later, which is definitely an intriguing situation if you ask me. It does spread it out a lot more with some of the ensembles moving into the Gulf, as a matter of fact, while the rest of them move out to sea generally. I don't know just what's going on here with the FNV3. It is interesting to see that it's just not showing too much early on, then bam, it showcases a lot of power later down the line. I want to see a few more runs to see if that's a consistent trend or not, but pulling up the 6Z right here, definitely a lot more of a concentrated signal and more power potential too as it's moving into the Atlantic Basin, heading towards Bermuda as a matter of fact. So it's definitely still there for sure, although it's not too excited about it developing early on, but it's more so excited with it developing much later down the road. So that might be a scenario that we're going to want to watch out for. And lastly, here is the GENC for you guys right here. I will tell you this, the 12Z from yesterday definitely was a bit interesting if it's going to let me pull it up. Same thing with the 18Z. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and refresh the page real quickly. This is what we saw at the 18Z from last night when we were talking about on the Triple P show. Definitely more concentrated, showcasing a lot of power potential right here. Looking at the 0Z run, a bit of an interesting shift. Weaker initially, but it shifts it further to the west and potentially impacts more people over here, especially if you're in the Antilles, the Bahamas, and those areas right there. Taking a quick gander of what's going on a little bit further outline, yeah, there is still a lot of power associated with the GENC. And one thing I do want to emphasize here is the GENC was the most conservative model of the bunch when Invest 92L and 94L happened. In this case, it's one of the most aggressive runs. And that flip right there, along with the FNV3 showcasing some development still happening, but later down the road, is definitely telling me, okay, this is actually a legitimate signal. This actually could be a very strong system. We're going to want to pay attention to this a lot more. And this isn't just the ensemble showcasing this. The operational is very much picking up on this as well. Here is the European run right here. This is the 0Z Euro that we have and that we're going to show you. Here's what we have for you guys. The 12Z Euro, we talked about it last night in the Triple P show. Things were definitely getting interesting in terms of potential development, in terms of its strength. The 0Z is definitely, we're going to show you what's going on with this. The European wants the system to develop very, very quickly, potentially reaching tropical depression strength as it moves south of the Cabo Verde Islands, then tropical storm strength as it moves west of those islands and moves into the main development region, and it kind of maintains its intensity as it moves through much of the MDR into the Atlantic Basin. It actually gets up to strong tropical storm strength by the time we get to August 30th, and then it gets to hurricane strength by the time we get to September 1st. By the time that happens, though, it's 10 days out. So take anything you see right after that next by a pinch of salt right here. Please excuse me for my stammering. But anyway, this is what we have going on afterward. The Europeans still very much aggressive, wanting potential major hurricane strength going on, at least with the operational run. The 12Z from yesterday also showed something similar to this as well. So we're 2 for 2 in terms of this showing a lot of power, kind of being one-on-one with the ensembles like we were talking about last night. And this is something I'm taking a lot more seriously now that we have a legitimate operational ensemble tandem right here. So that's what we have going on with the Euro. Keep in mind, by the time this does happen, this is 330 hours out. This is early September by the time we get to this point. So take it with a massive grain of sodium chloride. Yes, Jimmy Neutron fans, I know you're out there listening to that. Skeet, I hope you're doing okay. But anyway, we got to go ahead and go to the GFS right here. And here is the GFS. The 12Z, interestingly, is starting to come out. Let's go ahead and show you the 0Z, though, just to kind of cross-reference with what's going on with what I just showed with the Euro. Here is the GFS. Similar to the Euro, quick development. Maybe tropical depression to tropical storm strength south of the Cabo Verde Islands, then moving into the main development region. I will tell you this, the GFS is definitely on the aggressive side, wanting the system to be a hurricane in the main development region, potentially a high-end Category 1 by the time we get to August 28th. But as time goes on, it actually maintains its hurricane strength as it moves north of the Leeward Islands over here. It does weaken a little bit to maybe strong tropical storm strength as it runs into a little bit of wind shear, but then it starts intensifying at a very fast rate with the 0Z. It actually gets up to potentially major hurricane strength as it starts to move out to sea and as it starts to rampage across parts of the Atlantic over here. We're going to want to pay attention to it. Keep in mind, this is 300 hours out, and the GFS is generally being rather aggressive, in my opinion, based on what we're seeing. I don't think a lot of the ensembles and operational want this to be a hurricane out in the main development region, rather waiting for it to happen later down the road, but we will keep an eye on it for sure. So that's the GFS. So we're 2 for 2 in terms of operationals. Here is the Canadian run. Canadian has definitely been interesting. It wants the system to maybe develop as it starts to move off the Cabo Verde Islands, but not too much is really going to be happening afterward as it's moving through the MDR. I will tell you this, it's definitely doing a better job catching up compared to what I saw with the 0Z yesterday and the 12Z for what's going on from yesterday as well. But ultimately, it's not really doing too much as it gets towards the Atlantic Basin, but it does only go 10 days out, and a lot of the Euro and GFS explosion in terms of intensity goes on after that point. But the Canadian is doing a better job from yesterday, so they're starting to uptrend on this signal as well. Let's go ahead and show you the icon, even though it's iconic for not getting anything right. And we have the icon out for you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 0Z icon that we're going to be moving through. It comes off the coast of Africa, starts to get its act together very, very quickly. This is a common theme on every single model. They want this to organize and develop very, very quickly. Before, I was a little skeptical of this. Now, I see a bit of a path to this. If the convection can keep producing and it can tap into that water-based convection quicker than what you would typically see in the main development region, it has a very decent shot at doing that. We're going to want to see how this splashes down, but every single model wants this to splash down very, very well. We're getting up to strong tropical storm strength potentially with the icon in the main development region too. So it's definitely something we're going to want to pay attention to, as every single model has uptrended, 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 uptrended. And this is part of the reason why. These are our water temperatures that we have for you guys right here. We're going to be going over all the conditions as well. I also know for a fact that the shear and the dry air aspect has definitely been getting better and better in terms with the models for tropical development. We will get to those in a little bit. But here is our water temperatures for you guys right here. Across the entire time it's in the main development region, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius across much of the region until it starts shifting a bit more to the northwest in this cusp of 27 degrees Celsius, but then it reemerges into the warmer water temperatures further to the north. But man, oh man, the water temperatures across the Atlantic have absolutely surged in the last month, and this is part of the reason why this is possible, because of that. But ultimately, water temperatures are absolutely warm going on. Let's go ahead and show the climate reanalyzer and give you a general idea as to what's been going on. Let's go ahead and show the SST maps. Let's go to the North Atlantic. Yeah, we're still climbing in terms of the water temperature warmth right here. We are officially, and it's not by an insignificant margin, the second warmest water temperatures on record in the Atlantic Ocean, only behind 2023, and that was a crazy year, not just in terms of hurricane season, but also in terms of the fact that you had SSTs of 7 degrees Celsius above average that just crushed the El Nino that we had previously. We're not seeing it this year because the El Nino is way stronger than what we saw in 2023, but I'm just emphasizing that we are at a situation where kind of the unexpected happened, where the water temperatures just absolutely started skyrocketing in early August, and they've continued to skyrocket, at least in terms of what we saw with the climatological mean. How long are they going to continue? Probably for maybe another couple of weeks before we start seeing some cooling down. But ultimately, man, oh man, I just wanted to emphasize that just to give you an idea of what is going to be fueling this potentially tropical area of interest. And this is also the other thing that's going to be fueling it as well. You have ocean heat content, good ocean heat content. When it emerges off the coast of Africa, there's a brief area of 50 to 75 OHC. It does drop off to about 25 to 50 as it moves through parts of the MDR, but then as it starts shifting into parts of the western MDR, you're looking at a pretty big blow up in terms of your OHC values right here. Anywhere from about 50 over here on the eastern side to up to 100 as it's moving west of the Lesser Antilles. Not west rather, but rather north. And then as it starts to emerge, if it moves far enough to the west, it's going to be tapping into potentially higher OHC, around 100 to 125 OHC. This is why a lot of the ensembles that keep it weak and shift it further to the west are wanting this to blow up in this region right here. There's plenty of warm water, plenty of ocean heat content to go off of. The main question here is, what is the wind shear going to be looking like, and how is the dry air going to pan out? Because the dry air especially is the main wild card of this, in my opinion. So to start off with, here is the European. We're going to be using our trusty dusty Euro, and we're going to be pulling up our conditions right here. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's move this back here. Let's go to wind shear and show you how this is done. So this is what we have with the 0Z shear. I'm also going to be showing what was happening with the 18Z from yesterday and the 12Z from yesterday as well. So this is what we have with the European shear right here. System emerges off the coast of Africa. The shear generally stays to the north of it over here from what I am seeing. Let's go ahead and go here, and I want to compare what we saw with the 18Z to what we're seeing now. This is the 18Z, this is the 12Z run that we have for you guys pulled up right here. 12Z definitely was a bit on the interesting side right here. Let's go ahead and go to the 18Z and the 0Z. Definitely a bit more shear further up to the north over here, but from what I am seeing is it does, from what I'm looking at, taking a gander at, it does shift slightly up to the north over here, and it looks like the tut that we were talking about previously is a lot less amplified now than it was previously, which is why we're seeing these much more aggressive model runs that we're seeing. But as time continues to go on, the shear moves further and further up to the north. You do have a little bit of shear up here further to the north that is definitely interesting. If it stays far enough away from the system, it could enhance the outflow, could cause some more organization and intensification down the line over here as the system gets its act together. I'm not paying attention to this business right here, mainly because that quote-unquote shear is the storm producing its own wind right here, and the model is counting it as shear. But as time continues to go on, though, it does start running into some shear in the central to western MDR as it starts moving towards the Atlantic Basin. But look what's going on over here. There is little to no wind shear in this part of the Atlantic that this system wants to take advantage of. And based on what I'm seeing with the consistent mile runs, it looks like it can and will take advantage of that. The wind shear starts to collapse a little bit and shift further up to the north. You see a little bit more of a trough angle starting to emerge. And then as it moves into the Atlantic Basin, look at what's going on right here. This is more so right here, the storm producing its own wind field right here, but it is merging into a much less sheared environment right here. This is why you are seeing this. This is why you are seeing an intensification explosion over here in that part of the Atlantic Basin, because there is very limited shear over here. There is some shear that's going to battle more so in the middle right here, more so in the central to western part of the MDR, but if it can get through that, and according to the models, it will, it looks like it has a huge room for growth and opportunity to get its act together and really blow up in terms of its intensification right here. We are absolutely going to want to pay attention to this down the line. The main questions are, how is this going to splash down, and how is the dry air going to pan out with this? And we can show you the dry air right now. Here is our dry air aspect. This is right when the wave comes off the coast of Africa. What was the 12Z and what was the 18Z showing? This is what we had with the 12Z right here. Taking a quick gander at, definitely some more dry air to the west and a little bit more to the north. 18Z a little bit more. 0Z's definitely retreated quite a bit compared to what I have seen previously. Let's go ahead now and go to about 120 hours out right here when the system's getting its act together and developing right here. Still quite a bit of dry air, but what was the previous runs like? 12Z definitely had some interesting stuff going on, had more dry air to the west and a little bit more to the north. 18Z, less dry air to the north, maybe a little bit more to the south over here. 0Z kind of fixes that issue a little bit. It doesn't have as much dry air to the north compared to the 12Z, but it has more moisture as well to the south as well. The main thing we're going to need to watch out for is, can this system take advantage of the low shear in this area, and can it pump enough convection to keep the dry air and allow for the outflow to keep fighting the dry air and keep it out of the system? A lot of the models definitely are supportive of that. It is a little sketchy to me, mainly because of what's been going on with the El Nino as of right now, but it does want to put the fight of its life up with it right here. And then as time goes on, you do start seeing a bit more of a dry air intrusion right here as it gets towards the central MDR due to wind shear. But look at this. The European wants this system to just mix it out very, very quickly. This is right here what we like to call mixable dry air, at least around the system. Mixable dry air is basically dry air that can be mixed out with convection. It's going to take time, but the Euro does it very, very quickly. It is a little hesitant, makes me a little hesitant, I will say. It's still going to be battling dry air, but then it starts intensifying. It reinforces its moisture pocket right here, and look at this. It starts taking advantage of the low wind shear, keeps the dry air out of the system, and it starts intensifying at a very fast rate as a matter of fact, and as a result of that. So it's definitely an intriguing situation we're going to want to watch out for. Still, a lot of uncertainty down the road, but confidence is increasing for tropical development, and potentially a strong tropical cyclone could be possible out of this, based on not just what I'm seeing with this, but based on every single model I've looked at. We're going to want to keep an eye on this, we're going to want to pay attention to it, and we will keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and close this video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.